So loud. Hello, ladies. I'm so excited. We have the one and only Mikaela Reuben in the house, who is the new author of the Eat to Love cookbook. Oh my gosh, I was like, everything this book is about is all the things that we've been talking about over the years being part of this community. So I'm excited to have Mikaela Reuben herself here live with us as this amazing holistic nutritional chef extraordinaire who's bringing food and healing and beautiful recipes to you guys. And her new cookbook has just launched, and we're just going to have a little chat with Mikaela about her journey and some tips and things from her on how you can move forwards in your life in eating healthier and the importance of it, and how being human can be so challenging and crazy. We've been having such a great chat already before this recording. So I'm so excited to introduce you. And Mikaela, I would love for you to share just how you got into, well, you gotta hold up your cookbook right
Oh,
at the
oh,
first part
oh.
because it's so cute. Look at this cookbook, Eat to Love. You've worked with some incredible people too over the years. I love it. We're gonna be sharing more of her bio and whatnot too with you guys. But why don't you share with the ladies what got you into cooking in the first place?
Okay. I love to talk a lot, so I'm gonna like hold myself back, but I've got kind of like a three-pronged answer to that. I
Yeah,
think cooking was how I used to play as a child. I think it's like what there was like something tactile about it.
fun.
I witnessed my father he had a heart attack when I was in my teens, and he was very much in the space of wanting to like learn how to heal his body through food. And I think I'd always loved food, but I never really understood that like food could be a tool in health and healing. And not that he's against Western medicine whatsoever, but he was like, there was just something missing. So he's like, why can't I do that? But also learn about how to keep my heart healthier with what I'm putting in it. So that kind of like, I watched him put himself through a series of like diets for almost 3 years to the point where he had lost like
Wow.
almost 70 pounds again and was like running
Wow.
marathons. He's actually potentially in better shape than I am in right now. And he's like 76 or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, so I think that really struck me as, he'd be like, I'm gonna go on this low fat diet, and then he'd lose weight, but he'd get really sunken skin. And so it was just he was kind of like a live uh experiment, I guess. To
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? Like, this is so interesting. And then he found his perfect kind of mix and match of all these different kind of diets he tried that like helped him thrive. And that kind of made me think there isn't a one and only. There's no certain way to be. Everyone has a different thing. And so that kind of started this questioning for me. And at the time, I was in kinesiology at University of
Okay.
Victoria, and I was living on a girlfriend's couch after a breakup in Maui, just for a minute, like taking a breath. And I had
Yeah.
applied to a master's in physiotherapy, but like, wasn't sure I'd get in. And she was like, why don't we just like make a cookbook? Like, you want to cook, you want to do healthy food. And I was like, all I want to do is like learn nutritional recipes. And I really wanted to like put them out there because I was so passionate about it. And I had been
Yeah.
planning and traveling. I had been dating a pilot, and every city we went to, I would take a cooking course. So I was like
Cool.
really obsessed with this and like doing a little basic nutrition and kinesiology, but like I kind of longed for more. And so she was an aspiring photographer at the time. And this is like in 2000, I don't even know when, like maybe 11. And she was like, let's go shoot a book at this guy's house across the road in Maui. And so we started putting together food and recipes. And the actual owner of the house walked in. He wasn't supposed to be on the island. And we had
Okay.
trashed his kitchen, and he had a private chef. And
Okay.
private chef was like, get out of my kitchen. But I didn't know what to do. So I just started cleaning. I'm a very messy chef. So I started and he took a little interest in the food I had made, and he was like, well, does it have this? Does it have this? Does it, is it gluten free? Is it this? Is there lots of sugar in it? And I was like, no. And he's like, I might need to use your food. There's a lot of people coming over. So he used my food.
Oh,
And
wow.
so for the next 2 weeks, we kind of built this rapport. But then I had to go back to moved to Vancouver and started a master's. And a year in, he's like, listen, I loved your food. I trust you. We spent that time together. He's like, can I train you to be a private chef? And so I essentially dropped out of my master's and just followed him around the world for a while. And he taught me
Wow.
to cook, and he was working on he was like on tours with rock bands and like always on movie sets. And
Yeah.
it's just like this guy. And I was like, I kind of fell into a career. I didn't know what it would entail. I was very
Mhm.
excited about the idea of like always traveling and always being exposed to all these really cool opportunities, and then was exhausted as well, as we kind of spoke about. But that's
Yeah.
basically how it was like a bit of passion and a tactile thing, then like kind of like to witness like someone's real life kind of recovery from, you know, he kind of had potentially like bad dietary and stress management habits. And so
Yeah.
he moved through that, and then kind of an opportunity that happened because I was just in that direction. And now we built the book 15 years later, and the girl
Wow.
that was, and the aspiring photographer, it was actually the photographer for the book as well.
Amazing. It's funny how you can have the dream and then this it's like the seed planted and then it comes to fruition like years later, but you realize like, oh yeah, this was my thing. I was just looking through I write my little manifestation journals and it's funny because I was reading through it 12 years ago. And part of it was I never really realized I actually wrote in there that I wanted to end up in Sylvan. I said I wanted a house in Williamsburg and in Sylvan Lake, and I'm back in Sylvan Lake, not really by my wasn't my plan. I just kind of ended up back here as we sort of talked a little bit. I've just like landed back here and I was like, wow, I actually said I wanted to be here. Like it's a cute little lake town, but those things just sort of unfold. So,
You
and that's kind of the funny thing is too, and my clients, you guys all know my stories. I often talk about manifestation or the synchronicities in life. And I thought it was cute to share the story how I kind of came to know Mikaela, because I actually was on a plane to LA and out of Victoria, and I was in the lineup with this nice woman, and there was this actual couple next to us, and he was an engineer, and there was an engineer couple with him and his wife, and then this lovely lady, and I started telling my story. I said, "Oh, I used to be an engineer, but then I became a wellness chef." And she goes, "Oh, my daughter's a wellness chef." And I was like, "No way. That's so cool." And then we ended up just chatting a little bit. Then we ended up sitting next to each other on the plane and then got into a little bit more of the story. And then she told me who it was. And I was like, "Oh, I should follow her on Instagram." And I was already even following you, which
oh
was so funny.
God.
And yeah, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been following her. I've definitely came across, I think even from some of my connections in New York, that I think you were doing an event in New York somewhere that somebody went to, like a rooftop thing or something. I don't know. It's all kind of coming back to me, but some wellness thing. I don't know, but I think that's how I ended up following you. But anyway, so here we are. Then I see that she's launched this cookbook, and I'm just like, all of this is such inner glow principles, and like the following your heart, the doing your love. So what would you say? I'm kind of curious because I feel like the ladies will want to know, what are your go-to prep things in the week that you like kind of get by on, or that you have, that you survive through, because you also have such a busy lifestyle. And but what do you feel like are your main, like you have to live with like these three things, or what foods do you feel like are your like main go-tos?
So, in the business of keeping other people healthy, I usually get a little, I don't always execute on mine the way that I execute for other people. So
Hmm.
I have
Hmm.
been
I get that.
actually really trying to like kind of walk my own walk a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm noticing, especially like in this last like little push, that when I'm on the go and moving a lot, I don't do well with like tons of raw salads. Like
Hmm.
I don't chew enough. Like there's like I'm like trying to do things too quick, and I'm like I know that these are not the principles, but
Yeah.
but what
Yeah.
I'm doing is in the morning when I might like be hard boiling eggs, and one of my tricks for myself is that I will blanch a head of broccoli at the same time, or like a half a bunch of asparagus or something like that. Then I know that I just have like, essentially like blanched greens for the rest of the day that I can either add to that, the eggs on the side with like avocado, or I can add to a salad later, but not a raw salad, but like all like
Mm,
toss like roasted beets and broccoli or something together. I just notice if I prepare some rough green vegetable and in the form of blanching. So I don't wash it first because I don't love
yeah.
washing and cook it. Like I don't love prepping all these different items and having to do that first. So I use blanching a lot, although I know steaming is probably more ideal in terms of like
Mhm.
most exceptional, but like for me that's my happy medium. I'm like, okay, Swiss chard go, like get in that water, or like I just love
Yeah.
when I'm already bringing water to boil if I am making hard boiled eggs or something. So those are like kind of some of the things that I've kind of had to do. I'm getting better also at like like always having kind of like cucumbers and like fresh things to grab. For me, I'm a snacker, so it's easy for me to just like I love quesadillas. Like not
Nice.
makes it
Yes.
better. And so my compromise is that like because I'm gluten free,
Hmm.
I find these like that I'll do that, but I'll like then have the steamed broccoli on the side. I notice as I get older that I really need fiber, like a lot more
Yeah.
fiber than I ever thought I did. And I actually like don't do well without it. So those are just like probably the things that I do for myself. If I do a big sauce, like if I do a big pesto, then
Yeah.
that does make it so much easier to throw in different ingredients together throughout the week. And then I do feel like I've really put something nice together. And the last thing that I have started to do is like plate my food rather than eating out of like a trough, like the way that
Yes. I
I'm
like love that you share these things because I am so similar in like even working in kitchens, you plate out the most beautiful meals and then you're literally eating out of a trough, like you're literally in a bucket sometimes in the back.
always in a bucket, standing up on the go, and I'm like,
Yeah.
stop, like sit down. And so
Yes.
I'm like I'll be like, okay, if I just like commit to something of self-care every day, when I plate, and my partner asked me that yesterday, he's like, what, tell me what one thing you did today. And I'm like, I plated my breakfast beautifully. Like I cut my avocado nicely rather than like eat
Yeah.
like a spoon on the counter, which is like a
Yes.
lot of how I eat my food is like on the go. And then
Mm.
that's one thing, especially we were mentioning nervous system stuff before, and I'm sure you talked to your
Yeah.
people about this, but like just sitting and eating and not being kind of dissociative and tasting the
Yes.
food and like being present with it and like actually being able to digest it. Like that stuff
Yes.
is such an important thing. So that's one of my main goals is to kind of like sit. And so if I plate my food beautifully for myself, I'm like, big win, big check mark.
Big win, and it is, like, I think some people, or most of the audience, I would presume, they see a wellness chef and they think, "Oh, they must be so well. They must be in this wellness world," even for myself, I became a wellness chef because I loved wellness. But at the same time, we have these tendencies, and I think this is where so many of the ladies in the audience will be able to relate, is that busyness, and that's really, like, even when you're passionate about, there's busy when you don't like what you do, and then there's busy when you love what you do, and it's still busy. And what would you say like has been, something that you feel like has been the big self-awareness for yourself, over these last years of building a cookbook is also no joke. We talked about that's a huge feat. So I'm like also, if anything, just support this woman for her incredible efforts. But you'll get an incredible recipes. I'm so excited to try some of your recipes too. But also, what a feat to just build a cookbook, and it can be so depleting in yourself too. And what would you say to the ladies in their own worlds of thinking that they're not doing enough or they're not being well enough, um, thinking that they're in stress land?
Yeah, I think this has been my hardest kind of confrontational epiphany, I guess, which is just like to build this, I really like lost my own wellness and self and stopped nourishing myself and stopped finding any balance and stopped, you know, I think I always had this thing like another deadline, another thing, like another minute where I can't turn back in and take care of myself. And I was like, at the end of the day, like everything got done. And, you
Yeah.
know, I caused a lot of, you know, sickness for myself during it. And it probably postponed the book by two
Yeah.
years. Had I just like
Yeah.
let my body rest when I needed, or like said, no, not today. Like today, I just need a little space. Or like if I just kind of prioritized a couple of those self things in a day, like go for a walk for 15 minutes, Michaela, or like sit down
Yeah.
to your food. Like if I had just like parented myself in a different way, I think because, instead of being like, for anyone else, I can like put them first, but for myself, and I feel like I know a lot of people like this. Um, I think I would have saved myself a lot of grief and a lot of hardship and a lot of, stuff that I have to kind of work on now to recover from
Mhm.
the place I put my body in and through during that. So I think I would just like say like the world's not going to end if you don't press send on this, and everything's going to be okay. And I would have just maybe been a little more gentle with myself during the creative process, because like
Hmm.
my creative process doesn't always work on the deadlines that I had. And trying to override my body led to some real, issues in the end. So that's kind of what I would say is like, we still deserve to like have moments of peace and rest and happiness and joy, and sitting and staring out
Hmm.
at the sunset, or like walking down a road just like listening to birds that are,
Yeah.
these little moments. I feel like I missed a lot of them for a while, and like I missed weddings and I missed birthdays, and I just really like forced myself into this thing. So I think on the other end of it, I'm like, it got done, and like I didn't nourish myself while I was writing a cookbook on self-nourishment.
Yeah. So if anybody in the audience is related to what Michaela just said about you put other people before you and maybe don't take care of yourself, put some love in the comments because I'd love to see all the relatability out there.
I mean, like, it's
And
so, yeah.
it's
And so I think, my biggest takeaway, and that is in the intro of my book, which is really like, I was like, all the kind of, for me, my takeaway was all the green juice and all the kale and all the, this and that, and the whole world, like, for me, isn't going to like help me in my wellness. It was really like, how do I
Mhm.
nourish myself? And that was outside of even food. It was like,
Yeah.
am I resting, or am I on call to everyone's needs all the time? Am I, letting my body settle? Am I sleeping? Like
Mm.
I think that was the biggest learning lesson, was like, food is absolutely one huge tenet or pillar of nourishment. But also like how you actually eat it is a whole other one that I never thought
Yes,
of.
yes, and I love it in my, like, the nervous system recovery thing that I went through, it was all about and I see this with women who wanna lose weight or anything, achieve things in their life, it's sort of like going into what's the underlying state of being that you are in. So someone who's wanting to lose weight, it's like usually it's like I'm overweight. I need to get this off my body. There's a lot of shame, and there's like working out because you're like shameful about it, or there's an acceptance, and there's a this is where I'm at, and I'm gonna just be more loving towards myself and start moving my body. That's a totally different outcome, and it's the same thing, I think, with achievements, even when we think, because I can totally relate in myself too with what you're saying. It's like I thought, like, I'm living my dreams, I'm doing all these things, but my state was still a little bit even like fear based, needing to like accomplish things. And you start to, and I like the phrase, you can't get there from there. Like, but if you're like, but I don't have the cookbook, I got to build this thing so that when I get the cookbook done, it'll be this. But it's sort of like, no, but I love what you said, like, we can still be in the state of enjoying it's like those little moments each day is what the beingness that we can take out into the world, and then it's just a totally different outcome and not dysregulating the crap out of ourselves.
That part of it, really, really like, I think it is just like the, when are you allowed to rest, or when is everything done, or
Yeah.
just learning to be rather than do. And I know that these are all like said statements, and I don't mean to sound cliche in any way, but like, but I mean, I keep waiting. And even now in this next push, as we were just talking about before, just like, all right, now we're on the sprint. Now we're pushing the book. Now we're this. And I'm like, wait, I'm like, oh, I guess I'll sleep in 2026. So like, okay, like, you know,
Yeah.
like if I'm learning anything, it's like, I do need to rest, and I don't know how to let myself. And it did cause a lot of, it caused, like, I have more to work on to resolve my health now after pushing myself for 5 years straight than I would if I had just like had that balance. And so I think that was my biggest takeaway. And I keep in this conversation, like, remind myself, I'm going into another push. And
Yeah.
what am I going to do? Do I want to spend a year recovering after this push? Or do I just want to like let myself have those moments of joy and the softness and the gentleness?
Yeah.
Not be like
Yeah.
so hard on myself, and like, all right, you deserve
Yeah.
10 minutes to eat a breakfast. Like, what is going on? Like, so I
Yes.
think just taking a step back and like pivoting, like, go to sit outside, even if it's on a curb or on your stoop or wherever, like, put your face in
Yeah.
this 10 minutes. And like, I notice I'll do that, but I'll be like, oh, I better get these emails back. And I'm like, your head's down. Like, you're not even
Hmm.
here. So that's, I think, I don't even know if that was the question because I just went on a little,
No.
but
I think that's the perfect answer. No, I think it's beautiful to hear your perspectives, and I love hearing the realness of it because what the cookbook is such a gift to us. We get these beautiful recipes. We don't have to go to 10 years of culinary training to get that. And then, but at the same time, the perspective of exactly that message is, I think, the message of our generation. It is like we literally, it's kind of like when the to-do list will never end. It doesn't end, but how are we operating in accomplishing it? And can we actually create more space to, and I've been doing lots of just like that can happen next year. Like I'm just so like I've been doing a lot of that myself. So I love our little synergies too because I've been just like that's just not going to happen now. I was like I'm going to do a cooking class these months. I wanted to all the things like cooking class will be these months and this. I'm like nope, that's going to go, that's the next chapter. That's next. Just slowing it down cuz what really is the rush.
and like kind of looking at the schedule of like wait, like I was trying to take on like three different clients as I was doing this, as I was doing that. And I'm like, in what world? Like, and it was, I kept being like, oh, you didn't get the
Yeah.
proposal out in time, and how are you going to do this? And now that I'm like starting it, I'm like, oh, I'm like struggling even just to know how to balance this. And I'm like, who made me think that I had to be putting out this much information and doing this? And so I
Yeah.
really appreciate the fact that like in some of like my therapy, they're like, you know, you do attract what where you're at and kind of what you were just speaking to. Like if I'm chaos,
Yeah.
I'm attracting chaos. Okay, fine. So
Yeah.
if I give myself time to be like rested and regulated and like I let my creativity come in and I feel a little more
Yeah.
empowered and inspired, then like
Mhm.
and who knows what I can do? Like and but
Yeah.
to be constantly kind of chasing this, I'll be able to rest when, I'll be able to do this when,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
that is still something that I'm really working on incorporating in this next kind of go because I think imagine like just being like it's okay, it's time to rest, you deserve the rest, you deserve to sit and eat, you can do this, and then what magic can I kind of create if I am in that.
Yes. Yes, that's what I've been, I think that's a big message for the community. My earbud keeps flying out. This left one is so funny. In this community and for myself, I've said like your rest is your leverage. We think that like our human selves, we think we need to get all this stuff done, but actually, and I know you've experienced this because I just know you a little bit, but I'm like, I know what you've done and accomplished. And I know that there's those, that the rest and that leverage is those opportunities that are beyond what we do in our busy minds. So it's rewiring yourself to realize like, because people are like, but I used to be like, but I have bills to pay and I have this to do. And when I started to take my own steps back and really go in my inner self, and like, the only way out is in, Christine, the only way out is in. And just going into that leverage expansiveness and that playful, that the rest, the nervous system regulations all relates to manifestation and what we call in our synchronicities, and they will pay the bills. They will, it's actually like we're almost blocking some of the miracles by putting in too much of the effort. And that's what I think is a beautiful message too, is like, because I'm relearning it myself. I'm like, this has been my life's almost lesson with my inner glow, is like this relearning that it doesn't come there from there. And I see it in my clients. I see it in a lot of women in this community. There's no shame in it. We're all doing it to some degree, but it's beautiful to be reminded and be amongst women that are on that journey to start being it, not wanting to be it.
I couldn't agree more. I think too, like, I'm so sorry, my alarm's going off. I don't.
No worries.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. Real life. Real life.
I was like, what is this? Okay. Whew. Okay, I'm back. I'm so sorry about that. So,
No worries.
um, I think I think the but mentality, like if I don't do this, I'll fail, or but I can't do this, or I can't take this rest, like
Hmm.
that to me, I know has blocked a lot of like potential help and support. And
Yeah.
when I'm like in a conversation, they're literally offering help and support and any in so many different ways. I'm like, well, that wouldn't work because and someone called me out on it recently. They're like, you're really good at blocking help. I was
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and so
Yeah.
it is, yeah, I think that's such an interesting kind of thing to get to, because it's really hard to just like take a step back. But the most amazing things for me have happened in the like I didn't even know I wanted a cookbook, and like someone saw some article like 8 years ago, and this woman was like, "Oh, you seem really interesting. Let's meet for a coffee." And like it wasn't through me. It was a very it kind of landed
Organic.
in a time when I was really not trying to do or be anything outside of it. And so I was just like, had reached a peaceful moment in my life at the time when it came in. And I was like, that's weird. Like, and usually the best things that have happened to me are when I am kind of happy.
Yes, yes, it's true. I find the same, like, when I've been that's why I have a hard time with even goal setting, but I've learned a little bit about goal setting is I put the dream or the goal, but it's all just to become that. It's supposed to pull you into inspiration, which being in the inspired state, you're gonna call in something that might not even be the goal. But the goal kind of got you into the state. That's how I see it now, versus because I would be like, I'm trying to achieve this goal and it's not working. And then I'd let go of the goal and then something else, a magical would come in. So I'm like, am I just supposed to let go the whole time? Do I set a goal? Like, but I realize it's all about just being happy and being in the kitchen, being in the things that you love starts to attract those opportunities. So I love that. So that's a perfect segue to kind of my final question, because as we've talked a little bit, like for me, my culinary journey was my head to heart journey. It was this is something I love. It helped me. I didn't understand what even when I used to say I wasn't a creative person, and then I got into cooking, and it was like, oh my gosh, I just felt like I didn't even feel like it was me. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I felt like it was just like the flow that people talk about. And then once I got into the flow, then all of a sudden I felt like I was just learning about life and miracles and spirituality, because it was beautiful. It opened up all these world of opportunities in my life. And I know there's a lot of women in our community too that are maybe unhappy in a career or not where they want to be in their life. And as someone who's been a passionate person in your life, like what would you say to that person who's not living in maybe their purpose or their passion, or and how do they even find that?
I would say like be open to dreaming.
Mhm.
Stay very curious about the little things, and like for me, I felt like, oh, but I have to do this school. I got into this master's. I have to go. And I was unhappy every single day. And I got really sick in my master's program. And but if I hadn't been kind of open to dreaming, I wouldn't have reached out to this chef again and kept checking in with him and like stayed on his radar. And I was like, I'm not gonna drop out of a master's that I've taken a huge loan out for, and that
Yeah.
like put myself into like so much debt to then
Yeah.
out of school to chase a dream. And I was like, there's no world in which, but like, I think I was just open to the idea of maybe this isn't it. And instead of, and like,
I like that. Maybe this isn't it.
and just the curiosity and the open to a dream, because
Mhm.
I still like sit sometimes. I'm like, when things don't feel right, when they're like harder than they need to be, I'm like, I wonder like, what could I dream up today? Like when you take a step back and you look at like what people are doing in the world, you're like, that didn't exist 2 years ago. Like, or like someone that was like, you know, what is it called? The little sticky pad things. Like, who designed, like, it's just to be open and to be creative and to like maybe, yeah, just like listen to that part that like maybe this isn't it, but not to be like taken out by it. Um,
Yeah.
that was the thing. Like, mine was really close. I was like on a career path that I didn't like, of 10 years of education. And I just
Mhm.
did it because I thought I was supposed to, and I thought I was supposed to be with this person and do this thing. And um, it was hard. It's not like you just get to choose something else. In my case, there was a hard few years when I dropped everything, but it landed me where I am today, and I wouldn't change that.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
just the open to dreaming and the being curious about, just
Curiosity is a good one.
yeah.
That openness is that's a great phrase. I've had often I've said, just wake up in the morning, because a lot of people wake up and they're just like they don't like their jobs or they're in that state. And I said, just almost open up, say, what if today could be the best day ever? What if it could be a better day? And that's like it's the inner creating the outer. And so it's taking that responsibility. We all have to do it on an ongoing basis to continue on that path. And I think, but it's a path worth taking. So
I agree. And just like being the curious about like, what if it did work out? That's like, okay,
mhm.
what if it did work out? What if it could work? What if you could dream outside of this thing? Like, I can't even believe how many dreams come to fruition. Really, like
Mhm.
every little idea, everything we see has been like someone that conceptualized it. And like the for me, sometimes it is just like, what do you believe you can do? And like it can start just like in a community or there's a woman that makes soup near me here and she just started delivering it to her neighbors and now she's got like a full-fledged business. And I'm like, good on you. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you like making soup, you made 10 really good ones, now you've got like a full
Yeah.
business. Make it. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just so inspiring. And I think that would be the one for me is like I've always been like a but person, like a, how do I say this? A but, like when someone's like, what about this? I'm like, no, I can't because or but, like an excuse. And I've had to get out of my own way and just be like, but what if it does work? Like
Yes.
what if it could be better than you ever thought? What if it can work out? Like for me, I did never think this cookbook would get done, and like it's done.
Yeah. It's done. We're celebrating
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Thank
that's
you.
amazing. I call it red filter and green filter often too. I'm like, are you in red filter or are you in green filter? Because green filter is infinite and there's you can do anything. Or green or red filter is exactly it's the buts or I don't know how is just the red filter. And I just take that one out. I don't know why that left one won't stay. But it's like I've been there too. And I mean those but it is amazing when you do flip the script and it's like but I don't know how. What if you did know how? Like it's literally just a thought and then it's the precursor to what will come from that.
And it's an exciting thing. Like I think it just really opens a dream. I think curiosity is something that, we all have as children, like an endless curiosity, an endless awe, an endless, imagination. And like
Mhm.
speaking to myself, but like also to many people I've encountered in my life that are adults, it's like, oh, that kind of dies a little bit. And I think, what if we kind of like lean on that a little bit more? Like, if anything, like, why not just dream a little bit more? So
Yeah.
that's and balance.
Yes,
Dream and
yes.
balance.
And balance. Yeah, dream and balance. That, like, and just finding that, yeah, that knowing your limits and kind of honoring yourself in the journey. I think that's a big one because there is never not another thing to be doing. Like that's what I find is so unfortunate about our world is we have so many opportunities. But like I used to say too, I'm like, I'm exhausted by all the excitement sometimes because it was just like I wanted to do it all. And but at what cost? And realizing like, oh, I can actually just I can say no, I can slow down, I can do it at my pace and enjoy that journey. And it's just beautiful when you kind of return to that space. So I hope you can like drop into that also self-acknowledgement for yourself to be like, wow, look at what I did build, you know? And yes, I think there's also we're never going to be perfect. I don't think we'll ever just be in like the zen all the time. Like I think there are phases where you kind of go through you kind of have to go through to your limits to be like, "Oh, that's my limit. Now I come back."
Yeah,
You know?
I'm really good at pushing my body. I played rugby for 5 years, and
Uh-huh.
I was like of the mentality of like no pain, like
Yeah,
like that.
right?
So then I'm like, oh, but then you gave yourself vertigo for a year and many concussions. Right, right. So like, I guess I was just thinking about this when you said like when we were just talking about the dream and the balance. For me, it's like the balance of like mind and body. So like my
Mhm.
mind is like the full capacity to dream and like conceptualize and all of that, and my body's like still need to sleep though, thanks, or
Yeah,
still need
yeah.
you to chew your food, thanks. And so I think
Yeah.
something there too with like trying to like honor all the outlets and not just like when I'm not taking care of my body, I go into like my body fights back, obviously.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and when my mind is on overdrive, I'm exhausted too. So there's in the balancing of all aspects of ourselves. I think that is kind of like how I would like look at like dream and balance is like the just the balance
Mhm,
between like self-nourishment in all regards, like giving your mind
mhm,
rest, giving your body
mhm.
rest, and like where they kind of meet. I am in no way, I'm just learning this forever,
Yeah, yeah,
forever and always.
right?
And
Hey, we're always learning. So I love this. Love the message, love the book. I can't wait to get my hands on it. And one final thing too, I'm curious, you've worked with a lot of cool people, you worked with a lot of celebrities and all that fun stuff. What would you say is like your client's favorite food that you've made or like a go-to that you're like, this is the one
well,
recipe that may be in the book that's like people can go to, like try this one first.
okay. So I'm gonna say that like my sauces are quite special. And the reason, so this book is basically in my 15 years of like working as a private chef from every kind of different dietary da 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 da, like under
Hmm.
their kind of like the tried and tested true that kind of worked for whether you're keto, whether you're raw, whether you're vegan. And like, I think my sauces really embody this like flavor profile that seemed to like bring a lot of happiness. So like
Hmm.
like a go-to tomato sauce. I have a go-to chimichurri. I have a go-to like these
Hmm.
different sauces that are by not my own, you know,
Yeah.
but just like my version that I would offer the client that are that seemed to always be successful. And that's kind of like what I
Mhm.
wanted the book to be was these tried and tested recipes.
Staples.
Yeah, these staples. I feel like my book is more of a staple book. Like
Yeah.
the go-to cookie that I kind of cooked for everyone, the go-to muffin that I made for everyone, the go-to salad, like,
Mhm.
and so it is a lot of go-tos in my repertoire. And so I think hard question to answer for me, but I'll just say
Yeah.
sauces. Sauces.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that because that's a big one. I mean, even when you're talking about like the cooking the broccoli, I was like, yeah, people don't know what to spice it up with or what saucy to put on there. Like that, I love that. So I'm really excited for everybody to get their hands on. And we'll be posting the link for everybody to get the cookbook. And how else, like, what else do you want the ladies to know as a final note, as a message from your heart to them?
Oh, just don't be hard on yourself.
It's beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.